Small foxes, huh?
Yes, young one. Young. Both. Yep.
Yeah.
For this year's.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you too.
Thank you very much. We did some good for the road here.
Yes.
I think it's always very exciting when you have a fox coming in.
Yes. It's nice to shoot with the rifle.
With the rifle, yeah.
Yes.
And they're so clever, they hear everything.
Yep.
So you really have to be they
see very, very good the movement.
Absolutely.
It's very, very difficult to shot with the rifle.
Yeah. Sometimes they see you, or often they see you when you put up your gun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's very clever and see very well, but...
Well, we were hidden away quite well up here.
Yep.
Great. So we have some lunch?
Yes.
Lunch is the most certain drive, as hunters often jokingly claim, and having it in the open air is an added bonus. Obviously, the beaters are even hungrier than the hunters, as they have walked many kilometers this morning, and many of these in very hilly country, as we've seen. The Romanian organizers are very meticulous with every detail, including the food. According to the tradition, many places in Eastern Europe, there is a nice bowl of steaming hot soup on the menu. For safety reasons, the hunters drink water only, but that does not prevent them from making a toast while congratulating each other with their results so far and for good luck in the drives to come. Naturally, the hunters are eagerly discussing their experiences of this morning and retelling their stories. In the next drive, Jean's post is situated on a forest road. A large sounder of wild boars is passing him, but along the ridge of the next hilltop, and it's not possible to make a shot due to the distance and the trees between them. But suddenly, Jean's guide warns him to get ready. He spotted wild boars on this side of the valley. A sounder of Überläufers comes trotting.
The second one. You have it.
Although the entire body of all the Überläufers were visible, Jean diligently used the chance that arose when the boars crossed the valley and ran up along the small ravine. Everything happened so fast that one of the boars is still standing and trying to locate the danger, and just to be sure, Jean keeps it covered. Although he is tempted to take a shot at the fourth and last boar, Jean wisely chooses to stop instead of pushing his luck. The distance is quite long, and the rifle's magazine is not full, which prevents him from making follow-up shots in case of wounding it. And 3 out of 4 boars isn't bad at all. Instead, he hurries up to refill his rifle with fresh cartridges and keep ready. You can never know whether more boars suddenly will appear.
That was just a lot of action. We saw 4 boars coming. 4 Überläufer. And we took 3 of them. With a quite high speed. The reloading with the helix is going straight fast. I love it.
At Franz Elbrich's post, something happens.
That looks big. Did the Kyler, the last one?
The Kyler is in the rear of the sounder, and the question is where it will appear again.
Wache. That's a Kyler. Is it a Kyla?
Will Franz Albrecht still get a chance?
Our wind was suddenly changing and pushed straight down. You could just see that the Kyla walked into our wind and stopped like that.
When the target is running, the task obviously becomes more difficult. In slow motion, it is easy to see how the hunter must take three things into account. The animal's direction, and hereby the line of aim. Then the speed of the boar, and finally the shooting distance. All three factors are part of estimating the necessary lead to make the bullet hit in the place you want. By using color codes, we will now show how much lead is necessary depending on the speed and distance to the boar. At 20 meters distance, you need to lead the intended point of impact between 0 and 40 centimeters, depending on whether the animal walks, trots, runs, or is galloping at full speed. At 40 meters, you must obviously have twice the lead, and depending on the speed, this is up to 80 centimeters. At 60 meters, you need to lead the target with something up to 110 and 120 centimeters if the boar is running at full speed. An adult wild boar is around 150 to 160 centimeters from the root of the tail to the tip of the snout. Accordingly, when shooting at a boar running at full speed at 80 meters distance, you need a lead around 3/4 of a body length. These few examples make it very obvious that you need a lot of practice from the shooting range to make good shots at running targets. However, you must also remember that it is not only the speed and distance to the boar which must be considered. If the animal comes running in a more or less acute angle, the area where the bullet will penetrate the vital body parts will be smaller and obviously more difficult to hit. If you're in a hilly terrain, you may also need to keep a line of aim which isn't horizontal. All these elements mean that you have to be a very experienced marksman to be able to make decent shots at wild boars running at high speed and at long distance. Jean has once again been given a post on a forest road with a good view of the valley and hillside in front of him. It doesn't take long before a sounder of boar appears, and even at a trotting pace. But with a sounder of this size, it's not always easy to find the right animal to shoot, not even when the guide assists you. Jean must just keep ready.
Fuck you. Kyla. Is that one? That was an interesting action. We saw a pack of boar coming from far away. And they stopped over us, over the hill. But I saw at the same time a single male boar, a huge one, coming behind, and he joined the group after a few minutes. So the group of boars the group of Läufer walked down, and I couldn't see this big male anymore. And I think after 10 seconds or 15 seconds, something like that, he came on the same way to the group, and I managed to place him a bullet, and I saw he fall down a bit far away. Friends, Kyla Knudsen, shooting at some boar right now to our right. We've had a very quiet drive. We could see some of the boar on the horizon going from left to right. Another boar on the top.
Jens is more lucky. A large Überläufer arrives at the last animal in the sounder. In slow motion, it is evident how Jens awaits the right angle and the right moment in order to be able to place the bullet absolutely correct. And accordingly, the result is quite spectacular.
A group of females and some yelling, and I took the last, we also call it Überläufer, and I took the last one. It's good to pick out.
Back at Franz Albrecht's post, something is happening. The dog is driving a single boar ahead, but it turns out to be a sow, which naturally is allowed to pass unmolested. In return, a single Kyler comes tiptoeing from the right. This Überläufer never heard the report of the rifle, exactly what Franz Albrecht endeavors to achieve. Over to the right of Franz Albrecht comes a sow with a lot of Frischlinge, and especially Überläufers at her tail. Due to the distance and lack of a hillside to catch the bullet, Franz Albrecht lets them pass. The large sounder is an indication of how prolific this species is. A sow can have 2 litters or more annually, and as the litters often contain 6 to 8 piglets, it does not take many years for a population of wild boars to become very dense. A Kyler appears over at Franz Albrecht's post.
A single Kyler, far up on the hill, moving from left to right, and I saw one gap where I knew he had to cross. So I put my sight on the left-hand side of that gap, and I waited until he walked into the gap, and then I just slowly moved my sight in front of the boar and squeezed off the shot. And by keeping the sight moving, I have a very steady horizontal movement. And my sight is not really going up and down, so no vertical movement. And then, with a bullet this fast, over 900 meters per second, a boar at that speed, it's probably 120 meters. You really need to lead it, I would say 30 centimeters in front of the head at least, to get a good shot on it. And in this situation, it worked.
Suddenly, a fox comes past to the left of Franz Albrecht. And as if it was called forward by the shots, another Kyler comes running.
Yes.
We just shot the fox, coming quite far ahead of the beater line, and then nearly exactly on the same path, big old Kyler came. And we've always been saying that, gotta watch out for where the foxes run, because the Kyler might follow, and I was a little worried about my shooting on the fox, that might scare other boar. But the Kyler came anyway. And it was a nice, perfect situation just to follow through the animal again and pull the trigger when the red dot is in front of the head.
Obviously, it's not only the direction of and distance to the animal which the hunters must take into consideration. The angle of the animal, too, influences where you should have the red dot in order for the bullet to hit the right place. It's no easy task to avoid a tree between the rifle and the target, while still making an even swing and make the right lead before pressing the trigger at the right moment. But when everything adds up, the wild boar drops like it was hit in the forehead by a sledgehammer. Although it is the hunter who shoots, it is the bullet which does the job. Let us hear what Franz Albrecht thinks of the lead-free bullets from Hornady.
I've shot quite a few boar now with this new lead-free ammunition, and I'm quite impressed because the boar have reacted better than I thought. And maybe leaving out the shots that are very far in front, because any bullet will do the job there, but the shots on the shoulder, the boar have been dead instantly, and I've always had a good exit wound. So I think that this is something that I'm going to keep trying until I have a good number of animals and can make a proper judgment on how good the bullet really is.
The first day of this spectacular wild boar hunt has been very successful for the hunters. Romania has vast tracts of almost untouched land, which is made evident by this grand view. But soon the hunters are back on their posts in a new drive, and this time it is Franz Albrecht who sees action first.
It's absolutely amazing how a big group of boar like this can come in a way and naturally behave so that they come into a close circle, and you don't have a shooting position, or you don't have a free shot on any single boar. So if they were attacked by wolves or bears, for example, this is what they would do. They would go into a close circle, and there would not be a single boar on either side of that, which is exactly what happened here, and they're just trying to orientate themselves on where the danger is coming from. So even if you're in a completely open forest like this, and you would think you would be able to shoot at least 3, 4, 5 out of a group like this, they really know exactly how to behave for you to only be able to take maybe 1 or 2. In this case, I only had 1 shot. I could have maybe taken a few more shots, but then this big tree was in the way. But I'm very happy with the frischling. We're close to the end of the season now, but I'm still as excited as if it was the first day.
Over at Jochen's post, a good chance of a double arises. As the first boar drops on the spot and the other one keeps standing for a second, Jochen shoots again, but too fast. The bullet goes over it, and the subsequent shots at the running animal doesn't hit it either, as it turns out during a careful search after the drive is over. Meanwhile, Jens gets an unexpected chance.
First piece of game today, a fox, a red fox.
Back at Jochen's post, he now gets a chance to regain confidence in his shooting, although this is far from an easy task. Taught by experience, Jochen only tries to shoot 1 boar in this sounder. At his neighbor Franz Albrecht's post, a lot of boars are also passing, but with the speed they're running, there are too many trees in the way for a decent shot. Instead, Franz Albrecht waits for game coming in a better direction.
Big Kyla at the back.
A group of wild boar come through the line. I had to wait quite far because Jochen is right in front of me. And I could see that at the very end there was a huge Kyla. He
was quite out of breath. Massive body, but already gone back in weight. Amazing animal. I couldn't really see how big the teeth were, but I just think, judging by the size, he must be huge. And I really wasn't expecting anything to happen in this afternoon drive. I think the distance was maybe 90 meters, maybe 100 meters. And I misjudged the speed, actually. I think he was slower than what I thought. But it all worked fine, and he came into a gap between two trees. And I knew he was coming into that gap. But the gap is too small for me to swing through the boar. So what I did was, I kept the red dot on the left-hand side of the gap, and when he came into the gap, I just overtook him and pressed the trigger. So I wasn't swinging all the way through. I started on the boar and just pulled in front of the head. And it seems to work.
It's a good one, yeah. It's a good one.
Sure.
Yeah, shoot him. Yes. I have him anytime. Just take him now, I can take him.
That was a nice, kind of big-bodied kyler. I think he was wounded from the fights that they have during the rut, because you could see his back was a little bit down. I think the first shot was perfect, and the second one got him again. But such tough animals. The main problem with the shooting here is that I have Jochen